Hi everyone, George here, and today I'm at Scape Nature. The aim of this video is to show you how I aquascape an Oase StyleLine 125. So let's go and check it out right now and I'll explain what we're doing. So here's the tank itself. Some of you may have seen this style of tank already on my channel and also on the Tropica YouTube channel. But the first thing we need to do is actually paint the background black. And the reason for that is we've got these black cables which will hang over the back and we don't want to see these. So the best idea, it's a black cabinet, it's a black hood, so if we paint the background black, it's going to add a really nice, obviously neutral background, which creates a nice contrast for the fish and the plants. So what we use is blackboard paint. So I've used this before, easy to apply onto glass, it's a matte finish, doesn't anti-reflection, applies really easily, so we just paint this on the back, nice and simple. Looks a lot nicer, can't see those ugly cables. Let's just talk about the system in a little bit more detail. Comes supplied with two 12-watt LED lamps. These are rated at 6,500 Kelvin, which is a really nice colour rendition, especially for the greens of the plants. Proven performers, these lamps. I've been growing plants really well with these for about 3 or 4 months now in my own StyleLine 125 at home. Also comes supplied with an internal filter. This is the BioPlus 200 Thermo. Comes complete with a heater there, easy to clean, modular kind of filtration system. You can upgrade this to an external filter. You've got some cutouts here in the hood if you did want to upgrade to an external filter. But the idea with this tank in Scape Nature is going to showcase what you can achieve with a relatively basic kind of mid-range setup. So no CO2, no extra lighting, internal filter, kind of low energy setup, easy, maybe some medium category plants, and yeah, just to showcase what is achievable with a relatively easy to set up off the shelf system. Next we think about the hardscape. So Ray has come up with this amazing composition, beautiful materials here. This is called Grey Mountain Stone, and then we have hornwood here. Actually quite a lot of money's worth here. We're probably looking over £100 worth, but I think this is a good lesson that we should really invest in good quality materials if you want to create a strong aquascape. You know, the hardscape is the backbone of the layout. If you start off with a very strong hardscape composition which is impactful and really attractive, then it's relatively easy to create a beautiful aquascape. If you imagine if we just only used 2 or 3 of these small stones and 1 small piece of wood, it's nowhere near going to have that impact. So it really is worthwhile investing in a good amount and high impact hardscape materials. So this is called an aquascaping dojo. Any aquascaping store that takes itself seriously should consider having one of these. This just means that the customers can have a rummage around the hardscape and have a good old play around in the sandpit and just be absolutely confident that what they buy is going to fit in their aquarium and look great. So we've got a tape measure here as well, so folk can actually measure out and make sure that the hardscape fits inside the aquarium. So next step is actually going to be fitting the hardscape in the tank. So we'll do that now and then we'll fit the substrate after that. We've installed the hardscape. I think it looks great. Really, really strong. Lots of room to put our epiphyte plants in. So what I like to do, generally speaking, is just wedge epiphytes in any gaps between the hardscape. This looks natural and it's just really easy to do rather than having to use any glue or string, etc. So a little bit of a different process to what I normally do. I normally put the substrate in first and then put the hardscape in afterwards. But we're doing it the other way around. We've obviously put the hardscape in first and then we put the substrate in next. So we're actually going to have an open sand foreground and then we're going to have soil in the background to plant into. So I think we're going to be using ADA La Plata cosmetic sand. No plants will be planted into that, and then Tropica soil behind that. And this is a natural kind of border where the hardscape is there. So this works really well. So let's do the substrate now. this is the cosmetic sand substrate, the Plata sand or the Plata sand from ADA, and I think it looks great just in the foreground there. Just used a small jug just to add it amongst the rocks. And this is a really good lesson. This is a good talking point. You can see the colour of the grey mountain stone matches La Plata sand really, really lovely. And this is a good lesson, you know, when you are using a cosmetic sand foreground with rocks, just make sure that those colours do harmonise with each other. Or you may want to have a distinct contrast, but just make sure you're really happy with those tones and those colours to make sure they give you a natural effect. You know, we're creating a nature style aquarium here and we're trying to make it look as natural as we can. So I'm really, really happy with this hardscape so far. I think the stone looks really interesting. Loads of these kind of crevices and cracks really add a sense of character and timelessness, and a similar concept with the wood. In fact, all these beautiful textures here all adds up to creating a very interesting hardscape layout. So kudos to Ray for choosing such beautiful materials to work with. Next, we need to add our soil in the background, so let's do that now. The substrate has now been installed and you can really get a sense of how this scape is going to look once it's completed. I think it looks amazing, really happy with it so far. One thing I did want to show you guys is you can see just here, we'll get a bit closer, that there's a gap between the stone and the glass, and this basically this soil is just going to come forward all the time onto the sand. The soil isn't as dense as sand, so it tends to work its way forward, and this is going to be really annoying. So what I'm going to do is actually hopefully wedge this stone here in between, and then that is going to prevent that sand, that's going to prevent the soil from migrating forward. So I'll just try and hold the camera with one hand and do it with the other. Just bear with me. So we can just, and that still looks quite natural. We can always make fine adjustments later, but as you can see, looking really great. So the soil at the back, we've used 6 litres of Tropica Aquarium Soil to plant into. This provides loads of nutrients for the plant roots, helps to lower the water pH and hardness slightly, which makes it a better home for the fish and shrimp and the plants. Great home for bacteria, has a high cation exchange capacity as well, which means it actually buffers the water in terms of taking in nutrients from the water column and locking them into the soil, so it makes those nutrients more available to the plant roots as well. So you can see a really lovely view of the tank. Let me just move this light out of the way a little bit more. So there's the plan view there. Loads of opportunities to attach our epiphytes in between the gaps between the stones and the wood. So that's going to be a really simple process. And then obviously lots of planting to go in the background. And then we'll leave the foreground quite open, which I think is going to add a really beautiful contrast. So far so good. Let's start now with planting. All of the plants are now prepared. You can see the Tropica labels next to each species. Little bit untidy at the moment, but we've got Ludwigia Rubin here. This is an easy red stem plant. It'll be interesting to see how red it does go in here. Parva is labelled as a medium category plant, but it will grow with no CO2. Same with the Bolbitis. Ray's had great results with Bolbitis in low energy setups. Crpytocoryne wendtii tropica, this can grow actually quite tall, so that'll be a nice background plant. And then we've actually got 4 different species of Anubias, starting with the smallest, Anubias Petite. And then we have the Anubias barteri, Anubias barteri angustifolia, and then Anubias gracelis over here, which is like this heart-shaped leaf. Beautiful. So that's all the plants prepared, mostly epiphytes of course, and then we've got some plants that we planted to the substrate at the back. Let's do that now. Here's an overhead shot of the planting. Starting on the right here, we have the Crpytocoryne wendtii tropica, then the red stem plant Ludwigia Rubin, and then some more wendtii tropica to the left, and then foreground left hand side we have the Parva. So of course these aren't mature right now and they're going to take a good few weeks to develop and start to look good. but hopefully you can kind of see the intention behind this layout so far. We've planted all of the plants in the soil, and now I've just misted the plants to stop them from drying out. Also soaked the wood a little bit with the mister, and you can see it's really looking nice now, ready to attach our epiphyte plants. Just a top tip, we did plant into the soil dry. In my experience, this just anchors the plants better and creates less mess. So that's a process that I do now all the time when I'm doing a new aquascape. Plant into the soil dry and then fill up with water slowly at the end. So next we're going to add our epiphyte plants, and I'm hoping we can just literally wedge them into the gaps. So let's do that now. We're fully planted now. All the epiphytes now attached. That Bolbitis is looking amazing. Loads of Anubias there, 4 different species. And then moving over to the left, the Crpytocoryne form nice dense bushes, super slow growing. Everything in here is slow growing, apart from the Ludwigia, which is okay because we're only using relatively low lighting in here, no CO2 injection, so it will be a low maintenance, low energy aquascape. So next we fill up with water, of course, using the special red colander. The tank is now full of water, and as you can see, the scape is looking quite nice already. Of course, over the next few months, as the slow growing epiphyte plants develop, take on a more natural form, and then the background rooted plants start to mature, it's really going to take in a whole new level of attractiveness. And because there's no CO2 injection and we're running only the stock lighting, it is going to be a very sustainable and low maintenance layout, and that's what we wanted to achieve here at Aquascape Nature. And I think it's a great example of what you can achieve with just the stock system, the Oase StyleLine 125, some strong hardscape of course with the grey mountain stone and the hornwood, and some beautiful specimens there of the Tropica plants. In total we used 20 pots, most of them epiphytes, a few cryps, and then the stem plant. The only stem plant we have in here is the Ludwigia Rubin. You can just see there in the centre of the screen. This will hopefully go red. It will be interesting to see how it does turn out in the coming weeks without CO2 injection or strong light. So I am curious to see this one develop. I do visit Aquascape Nature quite frequently, so we'll be able to give you guys updates on this over the next few months or so, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it evolves. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and leave us a comment. What fish would you stock in here? I'm thinking something maybe African. We do have a large proportion of African species in here, with 4 different species of Anubias and the Bolbitis. So maybe something to consider. So I'll say cheerio now. You keep on scaping. Take care. Cheerio.